Um, Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for your patience. I hope everybody is well. Welcome to our brown bag session. It's been a while since we had another one. And for those of you who are new in this session, this is just our sort of informal lunch sessions that happens at least once in a month on the Fridays, where we take our lunch. Hope also you've got your lunch with you. And during your lunch time, we get to listen and learn from colleagues within the municipality of eThekwini, or we also bring friends from outside to share in terms of what is it out there that they're doing that probably can revitalize the way we are doing and probably foster new relationships in the way we do things. So I am sure some of you are not familiar with the topic for today, but equally it is something that everybody can relate to, whether whatever space you are in as a citizen, or as a municipal employee, or you are in this space of development. So maybe just to trigger the engagement before I introduce my our speaker, our distinguished guest today, I would like us to start thinking about how do we approach the development of the city when we want to design. Do we just sit in our offices, or we sit in the boardroom and start brainstorming and think that we are ticking all the boxes and boom, we go and implement? Is it the way we do things? Because we are expecting in terms of designing and development, and then we think that we know in terms of what needs to happen. How do we ensure that we are meeting the user end requirements without involving the user end in terms of the designs, and the concept, the whole conceptualization of the designing of the spaces that we are responsible as the cities? How do we know that it meets the requirements of the citizens in their neighborhoods? They know their neighborhoods are probably more than we know their neighborhoods. How do we know that it meets the requirements of the youth and the future city that they're thinking of? How do we know that we are sharing the same vision and the imagination about the spaces or our public spaces that we share as communities? And equally, in these days, we need to be inclusive in terms of whatever we do. And then how do we ensure that whatever we come up with as cities, not necessarily only in terms of maybe just designing, but in anything that we do, we ensure that everybody's voice is heard. We ensure that we cater for all the genders, all the ages, different diversity in terms of culture, different levels of literacy. How do we ensure, what tools are we using, or what methodologies are we using to ensure that we are inclusive in terms of whatever we are conceptualizing? So today we have invited a colleague from the UN Habitat, Ms. Joy Mutai, to share with us some of the innovation tools that are out there available for us as cities that we can employ in our work in terms of conceptualization of the design and the programs that we bring out to our communities or for our citizens. Ms. Joy Mutai is a landscape architect and a GIS specialist. She works for the Global Space Program at the Planning, Finance and Economy section of the UN Habitat. She leads the development of new tools for the public spaces assessment, citywide strategies, SDG 11.7.1 methodology, nature-based solutions, and applies innovative methodologies for community participation, collaborative urban design. She is coordinating the block by block program and leads the nature-based solutions area of our work with the Global Public Spaces program. She has had experience working with the private sector and the non-profit organization. So, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Ms. Motayi. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction as well. I would like to share my screen and please do let me know once you see it. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Zama, and thank you for that. You have really basically introduced the main topic of discussion in regards to really thinking about urban planning and the design processes within the municipality of eThekwini and how those processes are undergoing. So I would like to again thank the Safer Cities team and the Office of the Strategic Management for inviting me to this brown bag. I will be speaking on the block by block methodology. We use Minecraft, the video game, to co-design public spaces with communities. And just central to that is what has been mentioned earlier. Central to it is to make sure that urban planning and design processes are more inclusive and more participatory, and people, even without training on architecture or urban planning, feel that they can have a simple tool to effectively describe their needs, ideas, and aspiration to the professions in regards to their future. So as an introductory, I just want to start off by saying, we are seeing as cities grow, there are challenges that are associated with unplanned urbanization. We see, unsustainable growth in terms of sprawl. We also see a lack of services in certain areas. This leads to spatial inequality, but also we are seeing more hazards appearing as a result of climate change, informality, and lack of public spaces, social mix, pollution, segregation, and I'll not go into the details of all this. We know that if cities are planned in this way, these are the effects that are seen in cities. So as UN Habitat, this is where as UN Habitat, basically the United Nations Human Settlements Program, which its headquarters in Nairobi. This is where we are mandated to support cities towards cities and towns towards sustainable development. So the main question that you'll ask is why public space? First, UN Habitat is the custodian agency for Goal 11. That means it supports member states and countries to achieve the commitments and targets that are set within the goal, but also to link it with other sustainable development goal implementation. Public space has been recognized as key in terms of sustainable development, and it has been discussed in international debate, and it's important because it has been recognized as well in the New Urban Agenda, which was adopted during the third conference, or the United Nations Conference on Human Settlements, which happened in 2016. But also within the Sustainable Development Goals, we have SDG Goal 11.7, which mandates member states to provide universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and quality public spaces, especially for women and girls, children, older persons, and persons with disability. So maybe this is one of the questions that I should also direct back to the team. Where is your city, wherever you're coming from, where is it in regards to implementation of this target? And we are in 2022, almost to the end of 2022. We have 8 years to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. So really a key question to understand in regards to provision of public space. So before I get into understanding and talking about public space, I would like to understand from the room And I'll give the floor to Ola to just take us through this Menti question so that I do understand where we are coming from when it comes to the topic of public space. Over to you.
Thanks, Joy. Good afternoon, colleagues. As you can see on the slide, this is just the first question to get an idea of what you consider a public space. So to take part, you'll just go to www.menti.com and it will ask for the code, which is there at the top, 72890781, or you can just use your mobile phone to scan the QR code and participate. Joy, I have the screen in front of me. Once I start seeing results, then I'll start sharing those. So if we can all just take a moment to take part in the exercise.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ola.
Colleagues, if you can just advise if you're winning with that. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm going to start sharing now. Okay, I think this is just one person that's participated, and it's Park and Town Square for now.
Fantastic. I think we can as well use this. Oh, wow, more coming in. Beaches. Community, that's very interesting. Thinking about community as public space. Outside my property, the schools. Okay, that's a really good
No, that's a good one. Safe place to enjoy.
Yeah. Where communities converge, as long as people are together, it is considered a public space. Very, very interesting. Outside my property, then we might get into the discussion of some of them, you know, outside my property, what does that mean? Is it just outside your, you know, the gates or the periphery of your land where you live? Those are some of the items that we can get into.
Let me just see in terms of how many people we have. We've got 9 people that have participated out of 25. Okay, now we have 10. But for the most part, I think it's just parks, and so on that people consider. Yeah. So I think you can go ahead, Joy, if you're happy to, unless you want to give it one more minute. Okay, you can carry on. Thanks.
Yes, I think we kind of get a general understanding, but I just wanted to bring out the definition of public space more from the international framework. I do understand that public space can be contextualized in regards to its definition, but the definition that we have adopted as UN Habitat is from the Charter of Public Space, which defines public space as all spaces that are publicly owned. They could also be privately owned, but of public use. It's important to state that, and it needs to be accessible and enjoyable to all for free and without any profit motive. And underlining the aspect on profit motive, because we get, you know, local governments often say that they have charged a fee to that specific public space because they would like some fee for the maintenance and management of the space. But then there are frameworks and models that can be applied to management and maintenance of public space. Other than charging an entrance fee, there could be, for example, commercial activities that are happening in the space to support that. But also you can talk with the businesses around in regards to providing maintenance and management of the public space, but also there's the private sector partnership that could be adopted. So some of the typology of public spaces that exist include open public spaces. These are open spaces or, of piece of land that is undeveloped without any buildings. There could be some buildings, but maybe that could be the park office. And these spaces are accessible to the public and provide recreational facilities. And these spaces include, as majority have answered in the Menti, parks, community gardens, cemeteries. And cemeteries is something very debatable. In some cities, they don't consider cemeteries as public spaces, but in others, they consider them as public spaces. We have playgrounds, sports fields, squares and plazas. So just to reflect back to the question on, outside my property, as long as outside your property is a space that is accessible to all for free and without any profit motive, and anyone feels that they are included and they can use that space, then that is considered as a public space. Of course, we have other open public spaces such as beachfronts and waterfronts. I think this is very popular as well in Durban. Then the second typology of public space is the street. And we know traditionally these have served three main purposes: mobility, commerce, as well as social interaction. But we see that streets connect multiple functions and spaces within cities, and they are open for free. And by virtue of them being publicly owned and maintained and also used, they are considered public space. Some of the public spaces under the street typology include like the promenades, the sidewalks that are used by mostly pedestrians and not really the highways and the roads. Then the last typology of public space is the public facilities. And I added two pictures in this presentation because I wanted to show different typologies, which is one example being like a religious center. And the other being market spaces. Market spaces are very important public spaces, and I thought that it's important to include them. But also we have other public facilities such as hospitals and clinics. We have schools, that was also in the Menti answers. We also have public libraries as some of the examples, and of course, social and civic halls as public spaces. So just to talk a little bit about the tools that UN Habitat, specifically the Global Public Space Program, utilizes. It has adopted a framework where local governments are able to understand their long-term planning, but also report to the SDGs in regards to public space. And that often, the recommendation is that starts with a citywide mapping of public spaces. That means, looking at the safety, accessibility, inclusivity. These are all indicators that are under the SDGs, and really understanding what are some of the safety concerns, comfort concerns in the public space. But looking at both the spatial gaps in regards to distribution of public space in the city, but also non-spatial gaps in regards to, which public spaces you need to prioritize when it comes to upgrading in the city. This really helps municipalities in terms of putting in financial resources more efficiently because they know where the needs are, but also to update their legislative frameworks, or if they're existing a citywide public space strategy, then they use this data to update the citywide public space strategy. In other cities, or let me say countries, they would like to update the national frameworks. So in that aspect, what happens is that the citywide assessment is done in multiple cities, and then the recommendations that are emanating from these cities are then fed into the national urban policy. So there are different scales and approaches that this assessment can be applied. We've applied this in 2 wards in eThekwini, Ward 21, and the inner city. So that is more of a testing and piloting initiative, but also we've done it in Johannesburg as well. Then after that, the next process is really getting into the strategy and the policy development aspect, where we use the citywide public space strategy document where the action plan is developed, the budgets are developed in regards to the outcomes of the citywide assessment. Then depending on the capacity and the needs for the city, the process goes into development of guidelines and principles and an implementation plan. This is where we select a pilot or a demonstration project. And that is when I'll talk about the different tools that we use in that aspect. And then, of course, feeding it back into the SDGs and feeding back, where you are in regards to implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. But what is important is also to mention that there are mainstreaming aspects that we look at throughout the whole process: youth, health, human rights, climate change, and all these tools and approaches are contextualized to cities and contextualized to the priorities of the municipality or the city. So before we get into the block by block methodology, I would hand over back to Ola on the next Menti question. So maybe you can also share your screen. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Joy. Let me just go through it before I start sharing. Colleagues, you will visit the same link. I had just popped it in the chat. But once again, it's www.menti. Let me just share my screen so you can see the code. So this question is basically asking, does your city use digital tools for engagement in public space planning? So this would be based on your experience as a resident in the city, or also then as a planner. So if you're involved in any of these processes, do you use digital tools at all? So yeah, there's one person that said they're not aware. Yeah, so let's just give that a few minutes and then we'll hand back over to Joy. Okay, so at least nobody's saying no. It's mostly that people are just not aware whether we do or not. So we've got two people that definitely say yes. It would be interesting though to know, for those people that have said yes, what digital tools are you aware of that we use for engagement? So maybe if you can just share in the chat some of the examples that you know of. Yeah, I think the majority is just people saying they're not really sure or they don't know. My colleague here says today's a good day because we're going to find out.
Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, so yeah, maybe then I can share my screen again
Yes,
and
yes,
go through the block by block methodology. So I'm glad to hear that there are no no's, and maybe because the no's are not aware, and the yeses will be, as Ola mentioned, will be really interesting to see the tools that are being applied. So what we've seen is that digital technology offer really an opportunity for inhabitants and cities to really think about their cities, get involved and weigh in regards to how their city will look like in future, how they will feel about the city, how the city will serve their needs. So through the block by block methodology, which is sorry, I'm getting an echo.
I'm sorry, Joy, we couldn't see your screen, but we can see it now.
Okay, good. So just wanted to mention that, supported by the funding and technical advice from Mojang and Microsoft, the Block by Block Foundation has been actively supporting the New Urban Agenda and the SDG implementation. So the Block by Block methodology itself employs, community meetings, presentations, site visits, and it's really important when it comes to communities understanding the site design and the planning of public spaces. And this includes, the plan, the design, the monitoring, and also the evaluation and the design of the public spaces, whilst including the community throughout the process. So just to mention that we are using the video game Minecraft, which you can think about it as a digital Lego of 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter cube, or basically cubes that can be used to, you just stack one cube on top of another until you create your idea or create your city or create your future public space. But most of the time we are asked why Minecraft? One of the things we recognize is that it's when doing workshops and when you're doing community engagements, it becomes very difficult to understand 2D images. And with Minecraft, it provides the opportunity to have 3D, visualization of the public space, but also the surrounding of the city. One of the biggest strengths of Minecraft is that it is very easy to learn, and even people without digital skill learn it very quickly and are able to build and showcase their ideas through just stacking one cube on top of another, and creating their vision and their ideas around public spaces. We've seen that it's really inclusive when it comes to the variety of people that are engaged. Oftentimes when you think Minecraft, you think young people, but we've engaged old people as well, up to 75 years of age. We've engaged people who are educated, the ones that are uneducated, and it's really a start to digital learning and understanding, your skills when it comes to community, empowerment, but also your skills when it comes to leadership when going through the workshops. So one of the most important thing around using Minecraft is that each voice matters. And we let people decide what they would like to see, what their vision is for that public space. We have given them a canvas of the space, and they look at this as an opportunity to really showcase their needs. They are the ones who use that public space every day, and they know what are some of the issues that happen in the space during the day, at night. They know how they relate with the public space, both in terms of history and heritage, and they know the importance of that space to them and their need and how it can serve their needs. So all voices matters, and it's important to ensure that when doing this Minecraft workshop to engage as many people within the community as possible. The other thing is that what we've seen as a powerful outcome of using Minecraft is that it bridges different, different people from different background, from different religion, of different ideology, and they come together and really concretize on ideas and how the future of the public space is. It also bridges that divide between experts and non-experts, and this is where communities are able to teach experts about what they would like to see and what they really think about the public space. For example, maybe you might, as an expert, you might not really be aware about some of the issues that are occurring in the space in regards to, for example, flooding. That might be maybe concentrated in one area of the public space, but because the community is really on the ground, they would tell you that during rainy season, that area of the space floods, and it's really important that that is taken into consideration when doing the designs. Then the last thing is really increasing the digital literacy, as I mentioned earlier, and building skills, and these are both soft and hard skills. we've seen that through engagement with communities, communities are able to build their coding skills, they are able to build their technical skills. For example, one picture at the bottom is from in Turkana, where communities were able to start creating solar panels and supporting in doing those electrical connections. Then in other areas where they've never seen a computer for the first time, you see that after 2-3 hours, they are able to use Minecraft, they're able to navigate the computer, and they're really interested in learning a little bit more around digital technologies. But also it builds leadership and communication skills. This is where you see communities really empowered and really speaking about their issues. And this comes out really, it shows their leadership skills coming out, and they end up really taking some leadership in terms of even the implementation of the public space. So the tool has been applied in over 90 cities. This needs to be updated. This was at the end of 2021. And we've upgraded over 140 public spaces through the use of Minecraft and impacted about 2.3 million people. And that means looking at how many people have had access to safe, inclusive, and accessible public spaces. So just before I get into the details of the step-by-step methodology of Minecraft, in a nutshell, it's a participatory tool that ensures communities are engaged towards the upgrading of public spaces. And really, it's the importance of this tool is the action-oriented aspects of it, that it not only moves from community engagement, but really moves into the implementation of public spaces. So the process is really divided into 3 main phases. So phase 1 is the planning phase, then goes to phase 2, which is the Minecraft co-design phase, and then phase 3, which is the implementation. Before, I just want to mention that this process and these steps can be contextualized to the capacity of any municipality. We do recognize that there are different capacities, both human and financial, in regards to implementation of public spaces, but also implementation of any urban development process. So the methodology is quite flexible and adaptable, but these are the key main phases that are in the methodology, with 16 activities. So in phase 1, there are 4 activities. And these 4 activities include the selection of the site. So it's very important to identify the site or sites that are meant to be upgraded. This could be as a result from, citywide assessment you've already undertaken, or you have a strategy and an action plan, and you already know the priority areas within the city where you would like to start the upgrading process. Once that is done, it's important to identify the financial resources that are there in regards to implementation of the public space. The financial resources are very important as you proceed towards the Minecraft workshop, because you will realize that there are ideas that will come out from the community that you might need to compromise, but it's important to have that overview of the financial aspects before moving into the Minecraft workshop. But also looking at both the technical and the operational requirements. When you want to do a Minecraft workshop, you will need computers. You will need to select communities that are representative sample of communities that are going to be part of the Minecraft workshop. But also you can look at other tools and methodologies that could complement the block-by-block methodology. We've seen, for example, in other cities, for example, in Indonesia, in Kalipepe, what they've done is that they've used the persona methodology to complement the block-by-block methodology, where communities are a story from a specific person. It could be an older person, it could be a child or a person with disability or a mother, is created in a card, and the community undertaking the design are able to put themselves in those shoes and be able to design for that person. So then there are other methodologies as well that could be applied. And then you move into understanding what the phase 2 of the workshop would look like. This could mean doing all these different methodologies at the same time, or breaking them into different phases in regards to the output that you would require. So phase 2, which is the Minecraft workshop, often starts with, of course, the opening session, but most important is the exploratory work. And it's important to note that at this point, it depends on the priority of the city. Some cities are focused on safety for women and girls, so a safety walk is more appropriate in that context rather than an exploratory walk. And some cities, if it's child-friendly, then you can look at, walking with the children along the streets of the public space, but also within the open public space, depending on the typology of public space that you've selected for upgrading. This is really a session where the participants are able to identify with the space itself. And then you go into, setting out the shared vision and then doing the Minecraft workshop. I'll go into the details of these steps in the next slides. And then there is the implementation bit of it, where the implementation, the expert design studio is done and the validation of the design is done together with the community, and then moving into the implementation of the public space. I also speak very fast, so if, please do raise your hand if I'm going too fast, and I can slow it down a little bit. But just to go through the different steps that I mentioned in terms of the methodology. So the first thing is to, you've already identified your site, you've already had your financial resources, there you already are aware of the budget for implementation of the public space. So the first thing is to collect the site information. So oftentimes if the city has, for street view, then it becomes easy to create the model for the Minecraft workshop. But if the city does not have a street view, or the site or the neighborhood does not have street view, it's important to collect the GPS location of that site, take detailed photos and videos of the space just to give an impression and understanding of the context of the space. This is an example of a plaza in Mexico. Then you can see now the Minecraft modeling has been done. The top image is the same plaza, but in real life, and the bottom image is the plaza in Minecraft. So just reflecting back to what I mentioned is in regards to, ensuring that the participants recognize with the space in a 3D version. So in this way, they really are aware about the buildings that are adjacent to the public space. They are aware about the amenities that are in the space, and they can really provide their inputs in regards to, the future of that public space. Then this is exploratory work that is done. This was an example done with children. So often what we recommend is that the public space, you do an exploratory walk around 5 minutes walking distance to the public space if it's an open public space, but also if it's a public facility. But if it's a street, you can be able to look at the connections between the streets to other streets, but also to other open spaces. This way, the participants, it jogs their minds in regards to what are some of the issues that they've experienced with the space, what are some of the opportunities that are there in regards to upgrading of the public space. Then based on that, the mapping of both opportunities, challenges, then, it's important to have a co-vision, a vision that is co-created together with the community. And this is an example of using a methodology called Method Kit. And, different people come in and jot what they would like to see in regards to different dimensions. It could be from a perspective of the spatial components, be it the seating, the lighting, or it could be around softer aspects such as the comfort level in the public space, what they would like to feel when they're in the space, what they would like to see when they're in the space. So that is really the visioning and the starting the brainstorming session of the Minecraft workshop. Then we move into the learning of the Minecraft. It's really important that they are, for example, if the workshop has a participation of about 40 people, it's important to group them into smaller groups of 2 to 3 people, so that they are able to really negotiate and really discuss about what they would like to have in their space. So we recommend 3 to 4 people on one computer, negotiating and discussing around the design of the space as that smaller group. At this point, it's important to ensure that you trigger their creativity. You would like to ask them, like, what do you like most about the site? What do you dislike? Some of the things that you can ask them is what are the challenges? How would you like to improve them? What do you feel is missing in the space? It's really important to prompt them with those questions so that they are not experts. They are experts, but they are not, architects or urban planners. So so just to say that at the end, this is really important. So you can even ask them, how do you access the site at night? Is the site being used at night? So then the model making already starts, and the ideation process already starts during this process. Sometimes community members are not comfortable with the computer on the onset, so they can start designing using maps, or they can use pen and paper, which we often encourage. Different methodologies are important, but then they can translate that into the Minecraft model. Then the idea starts being developed by group. You can see examples of bottom. If I say bottom left, it's sunbeds, or having benches and sitting areas next to a beach, having an information area or a signage in the public space, having toilets, top right, having some toilets, or even an office space within the public space. So these are some examples that come out from these smaller groups. But what we request is that the participants present the idea. So they select someone within the 3 to 4 people, or they could present it together and really present their ideas in front of municipalities, in front of, architects. And this is where they really feel empowered. It's usually their proudest moment after building for 2 days or 1.5 days, and they want to showcase what they have built and what they would like to see in the public space. So usually this is the most powerful time of the Minecraft workshop. And then based on the presentations that are done, basically they are prioritized. As you remember, during the phase 1, it was important to identify the budget, because there are broad aspects that might come out from the designs. They could want swimming pool or roller coasters in the public space, but it's important to negotiate. And this is where, again, trust is built between the communities and the local government or the local architect. Just to mention that instead of a swimming pool, we are going to have a water feature, because this is within the regulation, or this will be part of phase 2 of the implementation of the project if it's being considered. But based on what has come out from the different groups, this is the main priority, having toilets or having sunbeds and street lighting within the public spaces, like the key priority workshop. And then the next thing is really the certification process, and really, having that session with the participants that they were part of the design process. And at this point, we are always asked, when will they start building? After they've started being engaged, the next question is, when is the public space being implemented? So the next phase is to look at those priority ideas, having an expert design studios to look at what came out from the community and how that can be integrated into the design, but really negotiating as well with the different implementers in regards to the budget, and if the budget can also be adjusted based on the outcome from the participatory workshop. Just to give an example, maybe a broader budget was placed in, having a football pitch within the public space, but what came out clearly from the workshop is the importance of street lighting and using the public space at night, because there are safety concerns in the public space. So then that negotiation is done, and the final design of the public space is developed. The technical drawings with the recommendations from the community. But that's not the end of it, because that needs to be communicated back to the community that, this is the final design, and based on the discussions, based on the budgetary limitation, based on the technical capacity, the final design has been developed, and these are the key priority areas that will be implemented. Just going towards the end, the co-design and co-implementation, I just wanted to emphasize on that, because the process needs to be inclusive from the onset. So even during implementation, it's important to include the local community to also enhance job creation within the neighborhood. And then the most proudest, again, moment is the opening of the public space and programming activities around the public space. And this is where you hear participants who were part of the Minecraft workshop really getting excited, saying that, the idea for that bench or the idea for that shade was from their group, and it has now been implemented. Another very proud moment. And just to show you some few examples of public spaces that have been upgraded, you can see one from Palestine at the top, the before, and at the bottom after. Another one from Niger, the top before and the bottom after. And just to emphasize with these pictures is that the negotiation for the implementation of the activities can also be very innovative in the sense of how it has been implemented. It does not need to be high cost implementation, but really to provide that space for communities to be able to use. Other examples, more smaller spaces along streets in Peru, having parklets, but also streets in Vietnam, where a street has been taken up for public space and has gone through the block by block process. So with that, I would like to close the presentation here. If you have any questions, if you'd like to go through the detailed methodology, we have the block by block playbook. The link is the link is in the QR code, so you can scan the QR code, but also you can write to us at UN Habitat Public Space at un.org, or directly to me in regards to the block by block methodology. I would like to thank the team, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Fantastic. Can we see more hands for that amazing presentation? Thank you, Ms. Joy, for the information. I'm so happy that we got to learn something new today. But for me, I was looking at actually the impact of the process, not necessarily the process itself with the innovation, but the impact of the process in using these tools. I see it, bringing community closer and being involved in the development of spaces, and particularly in the most practical manner. I like the way where we find ourselves between me as a citizen thinking about my needs and getting into the mind of the person who's a professional in terms of the development space, finding each other towards a common goal. But I also like this part where, in terms of the impact, that every voice matter in the process, right from the beginning to the implementation of the programs, and the way that the tool ensures diversity, and moreover, the opportunity to learn in terms of the digital. We live in the digital age, and just another practical way and indirectly giving us an opportunity to learn together in terms of the digital era. Of course, as the city of Thekwini, we definitely prioritize the issues of our city safety. The safety is actually very important in our city, and the inclusivity around, is it suitable for women, is it children friendly, it is very important. In one of our brown bag sessions, we were talking about our open spaces, and we were trying to prepare ourselves and get the thinking behind colleagues in terms of how do they feel about open spaces just after COVID, because with COVID, we saw the market boom in terms of moving to technology and isolating each other, and people investing in the beautification of their own spaces because they felt that they were no longer going to be at the public spaces. They were going to make their own spaces better. But we also believe that we need the public open spaces, for the lack of a better word, for our mental health and sanity. That's who we are as human beings. We need public spaces where we can be able to meet people and have a sense of freedom. So one of the things that we come up with, it's not necessarily that we wanted the open spaces to be safe and be child or women friendly, but we want to create lovable spaces. We wanted to be attracted back to the open spaces, because due to COVID, there was that just a flip of a coin. We said, no, we're no longer going to be in the public spaces. We want our home. Equally with the issues of safety and crime, we want to, spend more time in our own spaces because of the safety issues. So all of these things count to I think to most of the cities when they think about their open spaces. I want to open the floor to the comments and the questions from the colleagues, and maybe tell us what they're doing and in their spaces and what they think this tool will help them, and just the learnings from today's session. Can I open up the floor to the colleagues?
Yes, I think also as just colleagues, think about some of the comments as well as talk about the activities that they're doing. I just wanted to highlight one thing as well, as you mentioned in regards to COVID. We saw a new change as well in regards to spatial configuration of public spaces. As people were confined within their homes, they did not have anywhere to go and retreat to, or have a space where they could just go and get in touch with nature. And that really was important, and an important turning point in regards to ensuring that public spaces are within walking distances to people, and ensuring that public spaces are also multifunctional. They are just not spaces for recreation, but they could be used as, for example, this thinking about open spaces as market spaces, and bridging that divide when it comes to food security and ensuring that food is within, reach to people. So that really was another shift in terms of thinking about the spatial aspects of public space at the citywide level, but then at the neighborhood level, think about the quality of the public space and really how that is being used. And I just want to, again, reflect on the things that you mentioned in regards to, the impact of the process and the impact of development of the space. So we've seen two things that come out, the process itself, but once the implementation of the public space has occurred, we see more ownership of the public space in terms of ownership and management, and communities mobilize themselves to manage the spaces. There's also some community, I would call them job created within young people to maintain and manage those spaces after their implementation. So we've seen really a great impact when it comes to engaging from the onset with the communities. And I just want to highlight from the chat, safety pin is really an important, tool as well to assess safety issues, especially for women and girls, but also safety in general. And their key indicators. We have also tried to look at the citywide assessment and safety pin in Nairobi. Because we know that these two are very complementary and the indicators are very complementary. So it's important to, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, to look at tools and methodologies that can also complement each other and bring out, the recommendations and the strategies that the city requires in terms of moving forward. Yeah, and shout out to City of Johannesburg as well.
Colleagues, any questions, any reflection, comments? How do we get access to the tool? Do you think it will be useful in our workspaces? Maybe it could also probably evolve to the use of any engagements with the communities as well. It's a practical way of engaging and getting the public to participate in the citywide programs. I don't see any questions, but maybe I would like to thank Joy for sharing with us this innovation. I hope when colleagues in the future are stuck in the boardroom, they will think about you and touch base with you to try probably some of the innovation tools that you're using, because I saw in terms of when I was looking at your biography, there's a lot that we can leverage on in terms of your expertise, especially in terms of the green solutions, the nature-based solutions. I recently had an engagement with the City of Japan with regards to flood mitigation, and you could see that when I asked the question about nature-based solutions, they couldn't comprehend it, and they were thinking about concrete. And I know some of the colleagues, when they looking at mitigation of such issues, they always think that if you put proper infrastructure, the grey infrastructure, everything will work. But we have seen to see a little bit of changing or an added value in terms of the nature-based solution to support our grey solutions. So thank you so much, and thank you for the colleagues for taking time to listen and learn new things. Now I will be name dropping about this block-to-block tool in various conversations. That, oh yeah, I know, because I have my colleague Joy who specializes it, and she has shared it with us. It's very innovative. So yeah, it was another short lesson for us, and I hope colleagues will touch base with you and engage with you further for this innovation. Thank you, colleagues. Another last round of applause for Ms. Joy's colleagues.
Thank you very much. And maybe in the next session, because I could not go through all the tools that I talked about specifically, I was requested to talk about the block by block methodology. But if there's an opportunity to talk about the nature-based solutions area of work, this is something that I'm happy to do, as well as the citywide assessment and the strategy aspects. But really, this was going into the implementation bit of the process. So happy to engage, and thank you very much for inviting me to the Brown Bag session.
Thank you very much, Joy, and thank you, colleagues. Enjoy your weekend.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Bye.